All right, I need you to just picture this. A quiet, rolling landscape on the edge of a national forest, where a small community of tiny homes is nestled among the trees. This isn't just a trailer park, it's a social experiment. A community built on a single shared belief that happiness is found not in possessions, but in connections. They called it Haven's Rest, and for a while it seemed like a modern-day utopia. The homes themselves were a marvel of minimalist design, each one a few hundred square feet with solar panels, compost toilets, and clever space-saving furniture. The residents, a motley crew of artists, retirees, and young professionals, shared a communal garden, a fire pit, and a philosophy of simple living. Dinners were a nightly ritual, with everyone gathering to share food, stories, and the genuine warmth of a close-knit group. There was Leo, the charismatic founder and unofficial leader, who spoke passionately about escaping the rat race. There was Sarah and Ben, a young couple who had left behind their stressful city jobs for a fresh start. There was Eleanor, a reclusive artist who kept to herself but always showed up for the community potluck. And then there was old Mr. Henderson, a quiet elder with a mysterious past who preferred to watch the world from the solitude of his front porch. But with this forced proximity came an unspoken rule. In a tiny home village, privacy is a luxury. Everyone knew your business. You couldn't have a private argument, a secret phone call, or a personal crisis without the entire community noticing. The pressure to maintain this perfect idyllic facade was immense, creating a subtle psychological tension that simmered just beneath the surface. The tiny, unsettling incidents that had been dismissed as oddities in Chapter 1 were just the first tremors. The earthquake hit a few days later. The golden illusion of Haven's Rest was shattered by a chilling truth. A beloved member of their community, Sarah, the young woman who had sought a fresh start with her husband Ben, had simply gone vanished. Her disappearance was as inexplicable as it was terrifying. Ben woke up one morning to find her side of the bed cold. There was no note, no sign of a struggle, and the tiny home was perfectly tidy, exactly as she had left it. Her phone was on the bedside table, her purse on the kitchen counter. It was as if she had stepped out for a morning stroll and simply evaporated. The comfort of their close-knit community, a place where everyone knew everyone, suddenly became the source of an agonizing, unsolved mystery. The local police arrived, but they were baffled. A tiny home village is an investigative nightmare. The crime scene was impossibly small, and every potential witness was also a potential suspect. Ben was questioned relentlessly, as were the other residents. But everyone had an alibi. Leo, the charismatic leader, was in his home office. Old Mr. Henderson was on his porch as usual. Eleanor, the quiet artist, was working in her studio. Everyone saw or heard something, a car door slamming, a whisper, a shadow, but no one saw anything concrete. Their stories didn't quite line up, but nothing was a direct contradiction. As days bled into a week, the atmosphere in Haven's Rest turned toxic. The communal fire pit, once a place for shared stories, became a stage for whispered accusations and icy stares. Paranoia spread like a virus. Every neighbor looked at every other neighbor with suspicion. The tiny homes, once cozy havens of simple living, suddenly felt suffocatingly small, a claustrophobic prison where a killer could be living just a few feet away. All right, so Ben found the encrypted file on Sarah's computer. The one she had been hiding, the one that proved her disappearance wasn't a random act. With a sick sense of dread, he opened the file and began to read. What he found wasn't a confession or a cry for help. It was a digital journal, a meticulous record of Sarah's investigation into her own neighbors. The illusion of Haven's Rest, the perfect, close-knit commune, was shattered. Everyone, it seemed, was running from something. Sarah's journal was a devastating timeline of secrets she had uncovered, revealing that their idyllic community was built on a foundation of lies. Leo, the charismatic founder and self-proclaimed visionary, was not the noble idealist he appeared to be. The files showed he was a disgraced real estate developer who had lost millions of dollars in a fraudulent scheme. He had come to Haven's Rest not for a simple life, but to escape legal trouble and to find new, unsuspecting investors. He was a con artist hiding in plain sight. Eleanor, the reclusive artist, had a past that was even more chilling. Sarah's notes detailed a pattern of harassment and stalking that led to a restraining order against Eleanor in another state. Her quiet, withdrawn demeanor wasn't a sign of artistic temperament. It was the careful, creepy mask of a person hiding from their own violent history. And then there was Mr. Henderson, the quiet elder. The most shocking revelation was that Mr. Henderson wasn't just a retired widower. He was a retired homicide detective, an expert on cold case murders who had come to Haven's Rest to escape the ghosts of his own past. He knew more about crime than anyone in the village, yet he had remained silent, watching the events unfold with a quiet, observant intensity. The terrifying truth was that Sarah had discovered a specific, deeply buried secret that was a direct threat to someone in Haven's Rest. She wasn't just a victim, she was a witness. Her vanished wasn't a consequence of her past, but of someone else's. And that's when a new piece of the mystery emerged. A photo Sarah had secretly taken of the community fire pit. It showed a figure standing in the shadows, talking to one of the residents. The figure wasn't anyone in the village. This strange, dark, and mysterious person was an outsider, a ghost from one of the residents' dark pasts, a secret so dangerous it had finally come to collect its debt. Ben found the most damning evidence in Sarah's journal, a photo of a strange man talking to one of the village residents. He took everything he had found, not to the police, but to the only person who could possibly put it all together, Mr. Henderson, the reclusive, retired detective. With the chilling composure of a man who had seen too much crime, Mr. Henderson listened to Ben's story. He studied the photo intently, then slowly began connecting the scattered details that no one else had noticed. The scratching sound he heard under his own home was not a rodent, but a signal. Sarah's missing wooden bird was not a prank, but a test. And then he spoke a truth that left Ben cold. The man in that photo is not an outsider. He was invited here by one of us. Using his decades of investigative experience, it took Mr. Henderson only a few moments to uncover the terrible truth buried within Sarah's journal. The man in the photograph was Mark, a professional blackmailer connected to the past of Eleanor, the quiet artist. Eleanor had fled a crime in her old life and came to the tiny home village to hide, living a strange, dark, and mysterious existence. Mark had found her and came to extort her. Sarah had accidentally discovered this connection. When Ben and Mr. Henderson confronted Eleanor, she offered no resistance. She sat there, terrifyingly calm, and began to tell the entire story. Eleanor had killed Mark after he threatened to reveal her past, burying him in a secluded spot behind the woods. But Sarah had witnessed the whole thing. She had recorded the evidence, and in a moment of pure terror, Eleanor had acted. She lured Sarah to a secluded area and killed her, hiding the body where no one would ever find it. The digital gold rush for countless victims of schemes like Infinity Coin ended not in riches, but in ruin and despair. When millions of dollars simply vanish and the individuals behind them disappear or die under suspicious circumstances, the pursuit of justice becomes a tortuous, often frustrating odyssey. For many victims, justice remains an elusive dream. The decentralized, borderless nature of cryptocurrency makes tracing funds incredibly difficult. Even when perpetrators are identified, they often reside in jurisdictions with lax extradition laws, turning the legal battle into an international game of cat and mouse. Funds that are recovered often represent only a tiny fraction of what was lost. A bitter pill for those who poured their life savings into these elaborate cons. The emotional toll of being defrauded, of having their trust shattered, often lingers far longer than the financial devastation. The shocking deaths and disappearances of figures like Gerald Cotton have cast a long, creepy shadow over the entire cryptocurrency space. These events fueled intense conspiracy theories and amplified a crucial question. How can an industry promising a revolutionary future also harbor such darkness and lack of accountability? Governments and financial institutions, initially slow to react, are now scrambling to implement regulations. This ongoing debate pits the core crypto ethos of decentralization and anonymity against the desperate need for consumer protection and fraud prevention. It's a complex, evolving landscape where the rules are still being written, often in response to the latest, most devastating scandal. The legacy of these vanished millions and the tragic fates tied to them serves as a stark, undeniable warning. They highlight the inherent dangers of speculative, unregulated markets, where promises of guaranteed returns are almost always too good to be true. Investors are now, more than ever, urged to exercise extreme due diligence, to research projects exhaustively, and to understand the technology behind their investments. The mantra, "do your own research," has become a desperate necessity, not just a recommendation. Ultimately, the ghost in the blockchain lingers as a chilling reminder of modern-day perils. It's a strange, dark, and mysterious testament to human greed and the seductive power of deception in the digital age. These true stories of fortunes gained and utterly lost, and of lives that simply vanished, underscore that in the wild, untamed frontier of cryptocurrency, the stakes are not just financial. Sometimes in the pursuit of digital gold, the most precious thing lost is a life itself.